This is Mari Robeson of Love Lulu Creative, a podcast that supports and celebrates artists and creative entrepreneurs while giving back to the community in a unique and meaningful way. And I'm so happy to say we are able to do that. We just awarded the very first Louise Monforti Memorial Arts Scholarships yesterday evening, and it's just so wonderful that you are here on this journey with me and supporting not only the artists that we have on the show here, but we're supporting the next generation of artists with these scholarships. So it's just something I hope that we all feel really good about, and I hope to continue and grow this. So please subscribe to the channel, or if you've already subscribed, if you would share it with somebody that you think would be this would be helpful information for them, please share it and ask them to subscribe, because it really helps to get the word out. And I also deeply appreciate it, and I know that the next generation of scholarship recipients will also appreciate it. So thank you again. This is episode number 19, and it's such a fun episode because I was able to do this one locally here in my studio. I had the very, very talented Lena Rushing on, and she is a figurative narrative contemporary artist. I've always been really intrigued by her artwork, and you will see here on the episode with the graphics. It's so good. It's so technically good, and it has a lot of symbolism behind it. So it was really fun to ask her all those questions about the meaning behind her artwork, and it did not disappoint. Believe me, she is such an interesting, intelligent, powerful female, and I just was so enjoyed my time with her. She also has curated a lot of local shows here, and she participates in a lot of group shows. She's got a ton of really helpful advice in that area of being a fine artist. So I just know you're really going to enjoy this one. And thank you guys. Thank you again. I really appreciate the support, and please enjoy this really fun episode with the very talented Lena Rushing. Hi, Lena. I'm so happy to have you here. Yay. We're in my studio. I'm so happy you're local, and I get to have you here in the physical form, looking beautiful as ever.
Thank you for having me. Your studio is amazing. It's full of so much color and life, and it feels really good to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's so fun to be in different artist studios. I love being and seeing how other people create. And
absolutely. Yeah. Oh, being in other people's studios is amazing.
Maybe that's next down the road is I'll have to come down and do a little video of your studio.
Do video. Well, mine won't be very impressive, but there are some studios in our area that are amazing.
It's not even about impressive. It's just really super interesting about like what the workspace is like and what it looks like. So anyway, you are incredible, and you do beautiful paintings and shadow boxes, and I want to get into all of that, but I want to go back to where you're from, and I wanted to know, we're here on the Central Coast in California, and I wanted to know if you grew up here.
I grew up in Southern California. I was born in Huntington Beach, and that's where I went to grade school and junior high school. And then I moved to more near the Riverside area for high school and part of my college.
Oh, okay.
And then I came here about 20 years ago. And
so when was it sometime back when you were young when you decided you wanted to be an artist? Was there ever a moment when you were like, this is it, like this is going to be my life?
I think like all kids, I was definitely drawn to like really using your imagination and playing with different materials and making art. In junior high, I had a teacher who took an interest in me and gave me art supplies and really encouraged me to run with that. So I did. And then in high school, I don't know, I built my confidence. I won a couple art contests, and I earned a spot at the California State Summer School for the Arts at Cal Arts. And I think that was like really life-changing for me.
So lucky that you had that experience.
It was really amazing. And I encourage, like with your scholarship program, that's something you could mention to kids applying for that the Cal Arts experience, their Summer School of the Arts, is so wonderful.
So what is that? Is that open to all high school kids?
Yeah, high school kids can apply for that. The teacher can send a recommendation.
You live that's a great opportunity.
You live in the dorms. I mean, I'm not sure what it's like now because, I'm a little older now, but they were using working local artists in the Los Angeles County, like for the different programs. So like a painter who's doing this for a living, living in Los Angeles, or a sculptor or a photographer, or we had opera singers, we had everything. And it was just fully immersed in all the arts for a summer.
That's really great, because that's kind of showing you a lot of different avenues that you can go down. So was that kind of where you decided like the fine art was going to be a thing for you, or were you looking at other ideas with your art at that point?
I thought that I had already decided that, but being there really solidified that and made me see that a lot of people, this is something you can do. People make a living making art.
Oh, that's nice that you were told that. Let's keep saying that, people.
Well, all of the instructors during the summer school program were working artists. They weren't instructors. They were there for the summer. They were
doing like an artist in residence.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So
really
they
cool.
were like, oh no, this is what I literally do for a living. So it was
really
inspiring.
great.
It was pretty amazing. Mm-hmm.
What a great experience.
Sure.
So then after you do that, that's when you moved up to the Central Coast? Or?
So about 20 years ago, I moved up to the Central Coast. Yeah, after I did that, that was my last year in high school that I went to the summer school. Then I went to Riverside Community College. Mm-hmm. My professor was Dana Mason. She was a fabulous painter. I've cyberstalked her since, and she's still a fabulous painter. And then I came here and I went to Cuesta, and I worked as a cake decorator with the Food Workers Union for Ralph's and Albertsons.
So you're making cake and you're making art at school.
It was a perfect job for me. And then about 15 years ago when I had my daughter, so I'd already had my son, and then I had my daughter, and it was right after the union strike. And I never went back. I just dove headlong into
that was the leap.
Yeah.
Oh, I love hearing when people just decide I'm going to go for it.
Yeah.
Was it something you were thinking about, or was this kind of like, okay, well, I've got to just do something else right now? I mean, were you kind of planning to take that jump at some point?
I probably wouldn't have taken that jump if it weren't for the strike. I mean, the strike lasted over a year. And it was a hard place. I was pregnant and suddenly without insurance, and all of these things. It was like life-changing. And I told my husband I just didn't want to go back to that.
Yeah.
And he was like, whatever you want to do. He's always been very supportive about art or whatever I want.
Great.
Like, he's super supportive. So he's like, if you want to stay home and make art and raise the kids, and that's great. Let's do that. So I did.
Those are they're like unicorns. Those husbands. When you find one, you want to hang on to that one.
I didn't know that, but now that I talk to more, I think you're right. Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
When they have to live with art supplies over their entire house.
He's never complained for 1 second about it. No, we share a space actually. The space is half his office and half my where I do my painting. He's totally great about all of
That's really really cool. Yeah, I got lucky that way too. Okay, so did you have a body of work at that point? What were you working on? Like, what was your kind of launch pieces that you were working with?
I was young. I had a body of work, but looking back, I don't think it was very cohesive, and that I didn't realize that, and I didn't mind that, and I still was putting it all out there. Yeah. And also, I mean, you're familiar with my work, so you probably know that it's pretty weird. So it's not for everyone. But it's actually for more people than you think.
I think it's really fun.
So there was some resistance in the beginning when I was trying to show places.
Monsters?
Yeah, the monsters. Yeah, the subject matter is kind of dark.
So why do you choose to paint in that? Like, because the monsters appear a lot.
A lot, yeah.
What do they represent to you?
Well, I think that in the beginning, 20, 30 years ago when I was painting, I think I was just dealing with a lot of childhood trauma. I didn't realize that I was using it in a cathartic way, but I'm sure that I was.
Interesting.
And then when I was older and I had children of my own, I felt like I still had all of that and I needed a different place to put it because, you're a mom, that you can't walk around and be miserable and raise happy, healthy, emotionally well children. Right. You need a spot. And I'm a really sensitive person. So just things on the news or whatever can send me into it's personally upsetting.
watch the news.
Even though,
I'm the same way.
So it was a really great place to compartmentalize and to put it. I mean, because it's not like I hated that part of me. I don't hate like a dark side or a depressed side, or any of that. I don't. So it still is alive and well. It just lives in a shadow box or a painting.
Yeah.
And then I'm free to like be a parent and kind of focus on other things.
You separate it out. Your art from
Absolutely.
that.
Definitely.
Yeah. Oh, that's really interesting. That's really interesting.
I'm good at compartmentalizing, or so I've been told.
That's funny, and I'm kind of the opposite. Like, I'm just like, art everywhere. It's my house.
Right.
It spills into my interiors and everything. But it makes complete sense that to do it that way. And it's also interesting that I think that having that really a point of view and a perspective of when you're creating something. I mean, I would love to know more about that, because you do a lot of like the women that you paint, and there's is it an eel that comes?
Oh yeah,
just
some eels,
a lot.
birds, the peppermint swirls. There are some
owls.
things, the owls. There are some things that are repeated a lot in the artwork. Symbols.
So what do they all mean?
All of them at once.
All of them at once.
Well, okay, we'll go from easiest to hardest.
Okay.
Well, the owls.
Yes, this is so good. I'm so excited to hear this go.
The owls are just like, they're dark, they're fierce, they're kind of scary, but they're beautiful. And I mean, those are a few of my favorite things.
Yeah.
So I'm just drawn to owls. I mean, the barn owl in particular, because it looks sort of like a ghostly figure.
Yeah.
So I really like them. There's not something crazy deep about them, except that I'm just really attracted to the image.
Yeah. We have one that lives here.
Do you? You're so lucky. We have bunnies that roam in the backyard, so I can't.
The
I can't build an owl
box. The bunnies
box.
don't last very long.
Yeah. So I can't do that.
Or
but
cats. You don't want to let your cat go outside either. But I
I
love owls too.
They're amazing.
They can see in the darkness. I think they're very unique creatures. I think that's cool.
Yeah, I made a shadow box one time out of the bones retrieved from owl pellets.
Oh my goodness.
I sculpted an owl out of the bones. So that was pretty cool.
Wow.
Or it was fun.
Wow.
A great way to spin my reels. But so then we have the peppermint hair.
What is
the swirl hair.
Yes.
That shows up a lot.
What is that from? Why? I love it.
Well, there's a couple. There's a couple things going on there. If you do representational work, there's sort of like pressure and expectations on things. Like, let's say if you're painting a face. I mean, everyone relates to that image, so you can only stray so far before someone thinks that you're just really bad at it. Like the nose belongs here, the mouth belongs, everything, everything belongs in its place.
Right.
Shadows belong in certain places. And that sort of can get stressful, and the hair is really free, and you can do anything you want with it. And that sort of relieves some of that. And I felt like the giant peppermint swirls were sort of like symbolic of a couple things, like all the ideas and the voices, that are swirling around up in your mind, and, things like the angel and the devil, like the white and the red, like saying, okay, who do you think you are? This work is terrible. Don't show it to anyone. Why would you do that? And then the other one saying, no, you're all right. Keep going. Keep doing this. Just keep at it. So that shows up a lot in my work, the peppermint hair. And then there's the birds. Those show up a lot in my work. They're not like...
What type of bird is it? Is it a sparrow?
It's not any type of bird.
Your type of bird.
Yeah, it's not any type of bird. It's sort of... it almost looks like a beetle to me. But the birds usually accompany a female figure. And they usually come in like squads. And they're all kinds of different things. They're sort of like the soul of the protagonist. They're sort of like there's, fear and doubt. And that'd be like the black silhouette, because there'll be one of those in the image. And then there'll be one of them that has like hope, that has like a parachute type cape on. And then there's other ones that are just kind of like brave and going for it. And they're just like diving headlong into the next chapter of whatever's going on in that narrative piece. So, those are a few of
That's
the symbols.
so helpful to know that, because I think everybody, when they look at a piece of art, they're going to interpret it from their own experiences.
And I love that.
So, yeah. So
I'm ruining it right now.
not at all. But then when you have someone who's an artist who's really put thought into their piece, it's really helpful to understand what you were thinking with those things, because it makes it so much more interesting. I really like knowing that the birds represent all different things, and I didn't when I looked at it, I didn't pick that up when I was looking at it. So it's really gives it more depth, I guess.
Yeah.
So.
I usually like before, like if I'm at a show or something and someone approaches me and they want answers, I usually want answers first.
Yeah,
I'm like, well, what do you feel like is happening here? Because like that's going to be unique only to that person.
Mm-hmm.
That person's seeing it a totally different way than anyone. And it might be way more interesting than what it even meant to me. And then and then we can share. Then I can say, well, this is what I intended it to be, but I really like what it meant to you.
It's going to mean something different to every single person.
Right.
Exactly.
And that's pretty cool about art, right? I mean,
it is.
There are thoughts that
great.
you didn't have going into it. You go in, you see a piece.
Mm-hmm.
I've had people buy pieces that like, they approach me about buying a piece and they're like, I don't even buy artwork. I don't know. This isn't even something I do, but I can't stop thinking about this painting and I want to own it. I want to look at it, every day. And it'll be people you wouldn't even expect, like a 24-year-old bachelor, like somebody who's like, you need this piece of artwork that's of a woman in a ball gown? Really? Like, oh, okay.
Oh, I love the one in the ball gown, the green ball gown.
This one, that particular story was from the one in it's more of like a grayish navy ball gown.
Yeah, your women are amazing. Now, I saw on one of your things that you use a model. Is that your daughter modeling for you, or do you have friends that model for you?
All of that, yes. So my daughter has modeled for me throughout the years, and I usually try to change it a little bit. Mm-hmm. She hates it. I mean, she doesn't mind doing it usually, but then she doesn't want anyone to know. Like she never says, like, if you come in my house and one of them's out, like, that was me.
Exactly.
She's more like, don't tell anybody that was me, because she's a teenage girl. So, and then I have some friends in the area that I've painted. Usually when I find someone and I like what's going on with their look or whatever, I use them multiple times. But also there's times where you're just at home and you're suddenly inspired and you just need to get something out. And then I harvest parts from the internet. I take a few pictures of my hand in a certain position.
Harvest parts.
Yeah. I harvest parts. I'm like, I like those eyes. I like that hair. I like that nose. I need a dress that looks like that.
Yeah.
I do love stealing dresses from, Alexander McQueen or whoever.
Yeah. So your monkeys, one of them has a McQueen.
Yeah, my most recent piece
yes.
is wearing a Alexander McQueen piece from this 2008 collection.
What inspired the monkeys? Because they're fabulous.
Oh, okay, well,
they have total personalities and they're so fun.
Monkeys are amazing. I like how human they are. They seem. And I was entering a group show or submitting a piece for a group show in Southern California. And the theme was Sexy Beast. So usually when I do a group show or I submit for a group show, I try to take whatever they wanted you to do and then twist it or stretch it or see like where I could really go with this. And then I did my first monkey for that show, and they used it for the poster, so it worked out.
Oh, wow.
yeah.
So where was that show? Was that the Hive?
That was the Hive, yeah. Like you remember, but I was like, oh gosh, I can't remember.
Well, it stuck out to me because it was in LA, and so you're doing shows down in LA. You're not just doing local shows, you're doing shows.
Oh, just a couple, but I'm going to hope to do more, but I haven't really been branching out as much as I thought I would be, because the past few years, I've done a lot of shows locally. And
a lot. Like in 2018, you did like 8 or 9 shows. Or
too many, exactly.
And Art After Dark and stuff, yeah.
And actually, to take that kind of circle back, that 8th grade teacher that was really encouraging me, his advice to me was, don't turn down any opportunities if you want to be successful as an artist. I don't do that anymore.
Oh.
Now I'm like...
Well, because now you're successful.
It was driving me crazy. So like there were a few years where I was doing so many shows that year that when I'd work out my schedule, it'd be like every 8 days you have to have a completed piece. And I'm also like, I need to be a mom. Like I actually love momming more than arting. So, so it was turning something that I really, really loved and really cared about into a burden. And I couldn't do that to myself. So like this year and like what I'm planning for next year, I've really like pulled back, and I'm trying to just do maybe, a couple shows a year. So once I calm down and get a handle on that, then I'll go back to trying to get more spots spread out,
Well, that's really, really interesting. And so you already know what you're doing for 2020. You said you're...
Yeah, I'd have to look at my website.
But I know what show coming up in November at Linnea's.
I know what I apply for. Yeah, I have a show at Linnea's. I like showing there. It's really small and intimate.
Charming. Will you have an opening? Will you actually have like a artist reception?
I haven't decided. Sometimes I've shown there before and I do, and sometimes I don't. Like I've curated a show there, and of course you have an opening for that because so many people want to come. When I do a solo, they're great, and I did one at Studios on the Park, stuff like that, and it feels good and everything, but I think a lot of artists struggle with this thing where, and I know I do, where you're standing in the middle of your solo show and there's like, I get such anxiety, like, who are you? Why are you 5 years old? You've got these paintings on the wall and you're like, come look at my artwork, and it feels really awkward and uncomfortable for me. Once it gets going, I feel better. And once I start connecting and talking to people there, and then I feel good. But
I appreciate you sharing that, because I think that's a big fear, is that a lot of artists, they work solo, they work alone in their studios, and then all of a sudden they have to put it out there for the whole world to see, and then have a connection and a conversation.
Right. And you're really exposed.
And,
yes.
Yeah. And maybe they don't like it, and maybe they don't like you.
Right.
And it's scary. It's a scary thing. But then maybe they'll love it, and maybe they'll love you.
Right. And then it just depends, there's just a fear building up to that day. But once it happens, it's fine. And, there's two sides. Sometimes I feel like that, and sometimes I feel like,
Have you ever gotten any kind of negative comments from people because of your subject matter?
Have I ever gotten any negative comments? I don't think people are openly negative to me. I've tried to show places and been rejected plenty of times. And
so how do you deal with that? Because that would be helpful advice for someone to know.
Absolutely. So, if I were offering helpful advice, I would say to learn to live with rejection. You get rejected and you try again and you repeat that process. That's just how it goes.
Maybe it wasn't the right fit. We were talking about this earlier. Like, there's going to be some places where you show and it may not sell. And it's not that the work isn't good. It's just not the right place to show,
Sure. But 3 of my favorite places that I show regularly now, I was rejected from all of those places.
Oh, really?
And like, one place I wrote emails for a long time trying to get in. And then I finally got a show there. Or, Linnea's. The first time I tried to show at Linnea's, the owner was super frank, Linnea, and she was like, no, this is terrible.
Wow.
And it didn't stop me. I tried again the next year, and I tried again the next year. And now I've curated shows there. I've had solo shows there. It pays off. You just have to be persistent, and you can't take those things personally. Those people don't know you personally. They don't mean it personally.
Right.
And art, as cliche as it sounds, is subjective. Everyone doesn't like everything. I don't.
Right.
I have friends and I love the friends and I hate their artwork,
Yeah.
So, everything is, you just keep trying.
Yeah. Yeah, that you've got to kind of develop a thick skin for it, for sure. That's true. So you've done solo shows and you've done group shows. Like, how does one go about like doing a group show? Is it just that with your connections with being in groups, organizations and stuff, is that how that comes about, or?
Curating one or participating in?
Participating in.
Participating in group shows is more of like you see a call for entry. And you ask to be part of that group show. Or, I've lived in this area a long time, so sometimes it'll be a group of us that have just all known each other from the art community and say, hey, let's put on a group show.
Yeah. And your work kind of complements each other. So similar buyer would want to come and see.
Sure. Or even if it doesn't, it's kind of like when musicians, when a pop star brings in, a country singer or something like that, and then it appeals to both genres. And So our artwork doesn't necessarily have to be similar in any way, and that will just draw more people in, and then maybe people will see artwork they didn't think they were into, and then they actually enjoy it.
So how did you go about curating a show? Do you just find a location and you say, like, I'm going to pull in a couple? Do you do the call for artists? Is that how that works?
Yeah, so there's a couple ways I've approached the curating. The first couple shows, I approached the venue, asked for a month, discussed what I would want to put in the space. And they were like, yeah, go for it. I'd already been showing for several years. So, I think they trusted me.
Sure. Yeah.
And then I started with a small circle and then branched out, of local artists that I knew, and then brought in more people. The very first show I curated, it was a call for entries, and I didn't like that process because I don't like having to reject someone, because it doesn't mean you're not good. And I know how it feels, and I don't want, especially new artists, to feel like what I'm saying is that you're not good. That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
So the next time I curated a show, I just reached out to 50 women that I knew made art. And I said, here's what I want the theme. 50. I had 50 at the Powerful Women show, the feminist art show at Lena's in, 2011, I think.
Wow.
Or what was that, 2014? Anyway, so I chose them.
Very cool.
And I said, this is what I need from you. This is the size I need from you. And we stayed in contact for like 9 months. Just saying, make sure you're doing this. I want it all really uniform. It's a small space, and we're fitting 50 of us in there.
Yeah.
And then the last one that I curated was at Studios in the Park. They have a great space in the atrium. There's a lot of space.
Is this up in Paso?
Yeah, that's in Paso.
That's the one I went to, or I think I went to that one.
Did you? Did it have like the now signs hanging from the ceiling and all? Okay. That was my baby. That one I really loved. I reached out to women all over the country. I wanted to really bring in a variety of mediums. I wanted ceramics. I wanted fabric artists. I wanted so much variety. And I feel like I was really able to get that. And so that one wasn't a call for artists either. That one was like me searching for a certain type of woman, a certain type of art. And I feel like that was good.
So that's a ton of work. So did you...
That was so much work, Mari.
Mari,
that was...
talking to you about it, and you were like, it was so hard to get everybody to commit and actually do it. And
that was a year-long
Yeah.
full-time job. And I, a lot of people curate and they tell me I don't have that experience, Lena, but I think I'm particular and I want it to be a certain way.
Yeah.
I want to be the one who hangs the artwork. I want to be involved in every step of it, because if my name's on it,
Sure.
I want it to be the way that I want it and to represent my vision.
Right.
So my vision was really important for that.
So that's up in Paso. It's a big, kind of like a work gallery where the artists work there too.
Right. It has
like a
several
co-op
studios. It has several studios, working studios that artists rent out the space. And then once a month they put on a huge art event where they have live music. They have a winery come. And it gets great light. I feel like the front window's amazing. It's a really good space to show art.
Nice location. Yeah,
Sure.
It's good.
Sure.
Well, that's really exciting. So what's like on the horizon for you next? Like what's happening with you next?
Well, right now I finished that larger piece with the monkey and the Alexander McQueen, and I'm waiting to hear back if that's going to be accepted to the San Luis Obispo Museum of Art for their show in September. That was something that was a call for artists. Okay. So if you were an artist new to the area and you were saying, should you be a part of these organizations?
Right.
Yes, because then you would have gotten a call for that. It's juried, which can be good or bad, but you could win money, and that helps with your art.
Always helpful.
And it gives to the museum, because the museum's trying to build a larger space and a better space for art in our area, and art is really big in our area, and I think that will be awesome.
It's big in San Luis. So how do you find your collectors? Do you have your art just selling it solely online, or do you have it in a gallery year round? Or
I don't have it in the gallery year round.
Studios?
I did open studios in 2009. I don't know if it was for me. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I don't feel comfortable having a bunch of strangers in my house, I think.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I might do it again someday. It's not terrible. It's fun. And I personally love going on the tour.
Going to them, yeah.
I like to go see other people's spaces. Sure. For me, probably for most people who like to collect art, seeing the process is one of the most important things to me.
I agree.
I want to know, how was this made? What were you thinking?
That's why I want to do a whole video series on that.
Yeah. No, it's so interesting.
Yeah, I do.
And so that's why, like, when I make a piece, not every piece, but a lot of times I keep a baby book. I mean, and then if someone buys it and they're interested in seeing how it was born, here you go. Like,
that is so cute.
Because
a baby book.
I would want to know,
yeah,
how.
that's so true. Like your sketches and your thoughts and your ideas and how it came about. Interesting.
Yeah, I did a show a few years ago at Steinberg Gallery, and it was called Methods of Madness. And each piece was accompanied by a book of the methods, like how it was made. So I think people liked to come and look at the piece and then see how it changed, because my process is crazy. Like, I paint something, and then if it doesn't sit right, I'm painting over half of it. And then I'm painting over this part, and then I'm changing the color there. And it's tears, and it's, and then it's not, and it's just like this whole emotional journey to finish one large piece.
Ah, so true. So true. Do you work on multiple pieces at the same time?
Sometimes I'll work on a shadow box and a painting at the same time, but for the most part, like day to day, it's one piece at a time. But I mean, I might have 2 projects going.
Mm-hmm. So do you have like normal office hours? You get up and go to your studio for a certain amount of time?
I go to my studio for a certain amount of time, but I wouldn't say that office hours are normal. I'm really into, I have to feel good, like healthy. So I like to hike a lot or get all of that kind of stuff out of the way first, like stuff for my health.
Yeah.
Before I can really focus. But I would say in the middle of the day when the kids are at school, a good few hours. And then again at night after dinner, I can go back in there and work on stuff for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I do too. So what would be your advice to your younger self starting out? Just going into the world as a fine artist. Anything in particular that would have helped you if somebody would have told you when you were 20 years old, 21?
I think that I would have done more school. I'm not saying everybody needs to do that, but I think that I did have a student talk to me a few years ago, and she said, I'm having this crisis. I'm at Santa Cruz, and I just want to drop out and do art. And I think she thought I was going to say, do it, follow your heart, drop out and do art. But going back to the health, I mean, in order for you to be creating art and just maintaining a studio or whatever, you need to be able to be healthy. And if you can't get health insurance or feed yourself, then that can't really happen. So I think if I could start over, at the time I didn't think that I would want to do any kind of graphic design, but if I could start over, maybe I would have done something like that and fine art.
Right.
But I don't know. Yeah, I mean, you never know until you walk that road, really. So.
And you are, what would you call your work? Surreal pop art?
I would say I do. I mean, if I could give it a really long name, I would say it's like figurative, narrative, surreal, contemporary art.
Yeah, that pretty much, that's good.
If I could just list a string of adjectives, I would.
Well, and your work is technically very, very good. So it looks like you've trained, like you have an MFA, I mean, so that's pretty self-taught. I mean, you obviously had some art classes, but you're pretty self-taught then.
I would say, yeah.
Wow. I mean, that's really impressive.
Thank you.
It's really,
I have a lot to learn, definitely. And I'm open to that. That's fine. You could just keep going and you keep learning and evolving and, my art changes. And I think that I used to be really bad. Like, even when I'm painting, I don't usually sketch it out first with like a pencil or on a sketch pad or something. Everything's going right on the canvas. And as time went on, I kind of like to show that through it sometimes so that you can kind of see the bones of the piece and how it came to be. And then after that, I started doing the shadow boxes, and I felt I was doing like a pencil on printed cardstock. And I feel like I wasn't as terrible at drawing as I thought that I was.
Are all our own limited beliefs. So are you an oil painter or is it acrylic?
That's funny you should ask, seriously. Because I spent 20 years acrylics and I'm doing oil now.
Really?
Like, I haven't even shown an oil that I've done yet, but that's what I'm doing right now.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Is it because the oil smells a lot, so you have to have a lot good ventilation.
I think I was afraid of the oil because I'm really, I don't know, it's not a flattering word, but I'm kind of hyper. I can't sit still, and I felt like oil required patience. But now I kind of think the opposite of that. Instead, it doesn't require patience. You just can go back and change it and go back and change it as much as you want.
Yeah.
But with the acrylics, I liked that I could paint over it quickly.
Yes.
And fix something. And you can do that with oils. It's just different. So I really like that. And I met one of my art heroes several years ago at his open studio tour. And I asked him what his advice to me would be. And he told me to throw away all of my acrylics.
Who was this?
David Satino.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know why. He told me to throw them all away. I didn't. I kept them for another however many years. But
yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I paint in acrylic and watercolor, but I picked up watercolor because I'm so graphic design oriented with acrylics. Like everything's...
Watercolor's hard, I think.
I picked it up on purpose to make myself get loose again.
Yeah, that's hard to fix a mistake with watercolor.
Yeah, you just got to
start
go
over.
with the flow, and it's like, and I'm starting to kind of figure out what that does, and it's different on every different type of paper or different type of paint.
That's
that
brave.
You use.
Watercolor's brave. It's true.
It's far from brave.
No, it is. It is.
So, what was the best advice that was ever given to you?
So, I've actually thought about this question before.
Good.
And unfortunately, I can't really think of the best advice that was given to me, but I think one of the things that helped me the most was the support that was given to me. So my family was supportive. My dad, who I think would have preferred a more conservative choice of career.
Does he still feel that way?
He's not with us anymore, but he was very supportive about whatever I wanted to do. He was like, no, that's fine. I mean, that's great.
Yeah.
He didn't say that's silly. That's that's nonsense. And my mom was always very supportive. And my husband is extremely supportive. So I think that just having like a little, cushion of people around you saying, no, keep going. That's good.
Especially that trust you, because art is such a process. And, it's like many paintings look very unattractive until they're done. It's like they have to kind of go through that process, and to have someone around you that doesn't even make a commentary at it in the middle, just waits till it's done because they know that it's going to evolve to a certain place. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and you have to kind of trust the people that are around you in your space, because if somebody walked up to you in the middle of a painting and said, why are you doing that? I mean, sometimes that can be a little jarring.
Sure. And I've never had that.
Yeah.
I normally don't even ask someone's opinion on it because, they feel it's someone who loves you. Of course they're going to say, oh, that's great. So.
Oh, no, my husband gives opinions.
So I don't even ask. I just do what I'm
told
gonna
that
do.
story with Mark Bryant when I interviewed him, and I was doing the painting of the girl and the snake, and my husband said something, and I was like, no, that's not what it means. He's like, but some people are going to think that, and I'm like, oh, I can't finish this painting now.
I did have somebody think that something meant something wild, like it was a woman, and to me she was overcoming something, and she was like climbing up over something, and he was like, oh, why is that woman like bent over something? And I was like, and he took it all sexually, and I was like, wow, that didn't even sort of cross my mind.
Well, and there you go.
Right?
Art's subjective. Well, thank you so much. This was so much fun.
Thanks for having me.
I enjoyed having you. Yay. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you like this podcast and you'd like to support it even more, you can join me over on patreon.com/Mari Robeson and become a patron of mine. If you're a patron of mine, you'll receive bonus episodes every month, only for patrons. You'll also receive 20% off all the merchandise in my online shop, marirobeson.bigcartel, and you will be receiving free printables every month that will be of my artwork, and they're some really fun things. You can follow along on Instagram and you can see what I'm creating just for my patrons. I would deeply appreciate it. It would help me keep the lights on, and it would help me pay all the fees that it takes to put together a podcast like this so that I can keep supporting all the artists, keep bringing you great information, keep paying it forward to the next generation of artists. It's just a wonderful thing, and I would really deeply appreciate your support.